everybody, welcome back. Psychedelic here. Got a small vinyl update for you today. Got 6 LPs, and I'm going to show these in the order in which I acquired them, like always. Nice diverse mix of stuff. All albums are very different from each other. It's a little chilly in here this morning, so I got my sweater on. Heat just hasn't kicked on this morning, and that's kind of unusual, so oh well. Let's dive into these. So, this is a band that goes back, way back for me, probably 10, 11 years old when I first discovered them. And this particular album, I wasn't too crazy about initially. I thought, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath was kind of like their last final great album of the Ozzy era. But I've been listening to this one, for a couple months lately, I think, and it's kind of grown on me quite significantly. So far as to say, this might be in the top 5 Ozzy era Sabbath albums for me. And this is Sabotage. And during this time period, they were kind of dealing with a lot of negotiations with contracts and lawsuits going on. Them being in debt and having to tour a lot. And that's kind of why they called it Sabotage, and having the Sab in there makes sense, And during this time too, this came out in '75, so it's kind of like the middle of the Ozzy era. You can tell Ozzy was kind of growing this distinctful voice, has a very distinctful sound style in which he sings at this point. And I think they're pretty on the spot with this one. The only track that doesn't really work for me, I'm still trying to grow on me, is Super Czar, however you pronounce it. Otherwise, I've always been familiar with Hole in the Sky, Am I Going Insane, 2 very big favorites of mine. But Symptom of the Universe is the riff on here. It's just a great one. I actually learned it on guitar not too long ago. And got a great deal on this too on Discogs. It was listed VG. Plays much better than that. It's on the Palm Tree label, Warner Brothers. And I was kind of skeptical about purchasing this too from the seller because, oftentimes I don't buy stuff from people that have never sold things or have any feedback, but I got plenty of descriptive photos and great description on the condition, on how it played and stuff. So, still in the shrink. It's got a Goldman sticker, $4.55. Yeah. For 20 bucks, which oftentimes I think in clean shape like this, they go for probably at least 40. So, yeah, I'd say Symptom of the Universe is the standout track on here, but they kind of get in a progressive mold. They're kind of lengthening their tracks out a little more on here. And this also includes the little hidden track, Blow on the Jug, on the end of side 2. So, definitely a early pressing. I think only the early pressings had that. And then switching gears here, kind of doing a 180 on you, but just as good, if not better. I don't know how you pronounce this quite yet. I think it's Two Ox Detox? I don't know. It's their one and only LP from '73. It's on the Columbia label. I did pick this. I was looking at this in Lawrence, Kansas when I was on my trip. Passed up a deal for 30 bucks, but I got this for about 30 with a few PayPal funds, a little out of pocket. And so coming out of '73, when you first listen to this record, you think, wow, they definitely were ahead of their time as far as like the yacht rock sound and, AOR, kind of FM friendly radio tunes coming about. It's kind of proto AOR, proto yacht rock, whatever you want to describe it as. Soft rock, very West Coast flavored. I think these guys were actually from New York though. But it's got this kind of West Coast, like very coastal beach sounding vibe to it. Almost like you're in the cover, swimming with the dolphins there, naked. Naked. But yeah, no, seriously though, this is a very, very smooth, very chill record with some like very complex arrangements, progressive rhythmic sections going on. But it also has like this kind of funk aspect to it on a couple tracks too. there's not really one weak track on here. I would check out the opener, Tell Her She's Lovely. Kind of the one that reels you in right away. But also Joe Arnold is a good track. And on side 2, I would say High Tide. Can't go wrong with any of these tracks. I mean, there's definitely piano arrangements, very pop oriented, and it's kind of amazing this record never took off like it should have. Got the lyric sheet, lyric insert, and these two are brothers, and it also features, I think, the drummer from Sly and the Family Stone plays on here, Andy Newmark, and a couple other notable names I can't think of right now. What other groups they played in anyways. But yeah, it's definitely not psychedelic, you know, traditional psychedelic, but it definitely takes you somewhere for sure. Kind of curious to see what you guys think of this album if you've heard it. It's semi-affordable yet. It's kind of around the $50 range on average, so I say check it out. I think it's very good pop writing for its time. Very much in the yacht rock style. This one I'm very stoked to talk about. So Papa Duke Tyler, he popped to me on this one. He just received it in the mail from a friend. And this is one that I was not familiar with. I was familiar with the other band under the same name from Boston, Dry Ice, but this is actually a group from London. At least I think they formed from there, definitely UK. It's on the Morgan Bluetown label. And this is archived material back from, I think, '69. This was all recorded in. Here's the master tape reels back in the day. Comes with a cool insert here. Talks about the story on the back. Look at the bill, who they played with. They also played with Blossom Toes, Elmer Gantry's Velvet Opera, Spooky Tooth, The Taste, and I think they kind of notable for doing a show with The Who as well, and Chicken Shack, along those UK groups. This is very good for archival material. I would say 3/4 of this is very strong. The last quarter of the album, it's kind of nice they put that at the end, because the material starts to kind of, or at least the quality of the writing starts to, you know, go towards a downward spiral at that point, like most archival stuff probably does, but the first half makes up for it for sure. It's very strong UK inspired writing. I would say it's kind of in the same mold as if, you know, the Open Mind or the 5 Day Week, Straw People, Andromeda, you know, those sorts of sounds. If they were kind of going more towards like a hard rock sound, you know, for 1969, very UK inspired, it would sound like that. It's very catchy, very memorable songs. Clear White Light, and back in their heyday they only released one single, Running to the Convent, and it features that single on here. Also, the other two highlights for me, Chinese House has this really crazy like Blue Cheer inspired feedback outro going on, the whammy bar, and Falling Down is probably my favorite track on here. So I'll probably put the opening track as, or the track Falling Down as the opener to this video, so you guys can give it a listen. Pretty strong, and I think you can pick these up for, like, you know, on average 20-25 bucks. I will say my only complaint on here, the only flaw, is that, you know, the fidelity is not the strongest, so you have to kind of crank up the volume on it, but it's well worth it. Here's a little hype sticker. Forgot to mention too, it features Ian MacDonald from King Crimson. He does flute on one of the tracks. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. It was recorded in London, so he must have been stopping by at the time and did a little cameo. So Dry Ice, check her out. And then this one coming up is one that I was not expecting. So I forgot to mention too, little shout out time. I don't discover too many great new channels, like, at least for my taste, you know. That's not to say like there's not great channels out there, but there's a fellow who apparently lives around the Omaha area or travels this way towards my area, who's been digging, you know, through a lot of the spots that I kind of go over too, like stuff in Wahoo, Nebraska, St. Paul, Nebraska, which I went to probably 3 years ago now, but just knowing he's like in the same region as me, digging around is kind of cool, and I want to give him a shout out. So it's Tuco Vintage Vinyl Hunter. I haven't seen his latest video, but I knew he was going to make a video coming up where he stopped in Seward, Nebraska, which is pretty close to me, and he stopped at Antiques on 34, which, you know, last time I've been there, it was kind of the same pile. I only stopped in there twice, but apparently he must have picked up some new stuff in the back room, which I had no clue about. And so I let the owner know to contact me if anything fresh comes into the shop. But he said he had a great time picking, but I haven't seen what he had picked up yet because no video. Or at least I haven't seen the new video anyway. And boy, he left a great one behind. Although I will say, you know, most of the records in this condition, I'm sure you saw this too, man. A lot of them were in poor shape. They were partied to death, pretty scuffed up. But whoever brought them in only wanted $5 for them. And even if I spotted this in the wild and if it was really beat to crap, I'd still pick it up, and in that case I did. So I found this for $5. Now and Them. It's on the Tower label, and of course, looking at the cover, you know, it's definitely got some water damage issues there. A little bit of a split, but it's not terrible. I mean, you can still read the back, and it still holds itself up pretty well. And then as far as the record goes, it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did, because I cleaned it up a little bit, but if you look, you know, a little closer at it, you can see some definite marks made to the wax, unfortunately. But I did play this all the way through. There was only one jump cut on the track, on the best track, of course, Square Room. It has a little jump, but otherwise most of the surface noise is kind of mild to moderate, so it's still played all the way through, and I think it's pretty safe to play this yet. I mean, giving it the clean and being a little cautious with it, turned out to be a great find, actually. So this is one of the last remaining Them records that I've been needing. The only one I need left is Them in Reality, which is their final record on, I think it's Happy Tiger label. But yeah, and then even with this, I bought a few classic rock titles that were in decent shape. I might use as for some trade at the record shop. And it all ended up being like $25, and he gave me $5 off for this one, just given the condition. You know, I talked to him a little bit about it, so yeah. So post Van Morrison, you know, they're kind of going in like more psychedelic aspects naturally, and they do have, you know, a few rhythm and blues tracks kind of lingering in the mix yet. But Square Room is the key highlight off here. It's definitely the psych gem. Dirty Old Man. It's kind of a nice pop sound, even though with a title like that it probably shouldn't be, but no, it's overall pretty decent. But definitely their follow-up is definitely the best one, to my ears anyway. But this is definitely more of a pop rock kind of sound, less psychedelic than the cover's made out to be, but still very good. Great scoop there for sure. Got quite the response on Instagram, so doesn't happen very often, but I am so happy when it does. Was pleasantly surprised, so turned out just fine. Then moving on, so this is stuff that I picked up from the Record Shack on Instagram. He's been selling some cool reissues of stuff that I already may have had or wasn't really interested in, but still cool records nonetheless. This one popped up. I'm like, yeah, I've been looking for one. This is Bango from Brazil. This is their one and only LP from 1970. And just taking one glance at the cover, man, that is just one brutal cover. You have like all these severed heads on top of this shelf, and this vulture comes like flying in through this brick wall or something. And they're all like bloody up, and I don't know, there must have been a fifth guy in the mix. Took me a while to realize that, but Yes, they're from Brazil, so obviously it's going to have a little bit of that, you know, remnants of that Tropicalia flavor going on. But yeah, it's pretty good for what it is. There's like 3 moments here where are really big standouts with some nice fuzz and organ going throughout. It's pretty much like the first track, the middle track, and the last track on here. And this also does include like a bonus track, which is just okay. It's a fairly short album, under 30 minutes. I would check out the track Rock Dream, which is kind of my exposure to them. It's a very sloppy rendition of like Communication Breakdown almost. All Portuguese language inspired lyrics. Yeah, not a whole lot of backstory to this as far as I can tell, but they do have some liner notes here, but I do not speak the language, so it's going to be a little tough to read, but got some photos there. And this is on Groovy. I think it's Groovy Records. Yes. And this came out in 2015, so I would say check it out. It's definitely got some like lounge moves a little bit here and there. Kind of a 50s song structured kind of writing, you know, kind of that early rock and roll rhythmic stuff going on. You either like it or you hate it, I guess, but I do tend to like 3/4 of this. There are a couple tracks that are definite duds, but it's kind of expected, you know, given this sort of style. You know, a lot of Brazilian, South American bands oftentimes imitated a lot of different quirks, whether they were good or not, of like American and UK culture, I guess. And it is a very scarce album too, the originals. I don't think any originals have sold on Discogs last I checked, so check it out. Then moving on to this last one here. This is one I picked up in the mail today. Had to make a run to the post office, and I already shipped out one of those records I found at Antiques on 34. It was a sealed Tiffany record, which I found out, you know, I've had 2 of those in my life, and I found out they're kind of going for some money, and both times I've listed them, they both sold. So Tiffany of I Think We're Alone Now fame, which is a really sucky cover of that song, by the way. Anyways, I picked this one up, so this was kind of a surprise. I refreshed the, what is it, items I want page, because I've been kind of wanting this, but not nearly enough to pay like what it's going for, like over $100. So I was surprised to see a promo copy for like $30 on Discogs. This is Sugar Creek, Please Tell a Friend, and this is their one and only LP. It's a promotional copy apparently, but it's got a stock label. This is one where I would say at least half of this I can't really jive to, and I kind of knew that going in, but man, they got 2 tracks on here that are super strong for the genre of psychedelia. So it's the track A Million Years. It opens up. It's almost like they're teasing you, as if to say like, yeah, look at us, look how talented we are, we can really psych out our sound. And then you get to the next track and the next one, and then the next one after that, the 4th track. It's like a 7-minute bluesy snooze track, you know. It's primarily blues rock all the way through, but man, there's 2 tracks, A Million Years and the track Memory Tree. I would say it's kind of like H.P. Lovecraft meets, you know, proto-doom metal in one spot. They don't take advantage to their sound, you know. They had so much great potential to psych out their sound, but they just got to do that same old formulaic blues stuff, which is irritating. At least to me it is, but I will give them props, you know. They play the blues pretty well. They sound more West Coast, but they're formed out of Boston area, but they recorded this in New York City. But overall, it's kind of a love-hate relationship with this one. You know, 2 very strong tracks, but, you know, majority of this is very formulaic blues rock. Kind of exciting here and there. You know, the tone of everything, the tone of the guitars, the percussionist especially is very talented. He's got a lot of that with the drums, you know, the snare. but they just don't deliver like they should, man. It's just like, take advantage of that sound a little more. And kind of a creepy cover art, by the way. So yeah, it's on the Metro Media label, which I don't know if they fit the label, you know, Bobby Sherman's label, but you also have Christopher on there, which, you know, I would love to have an original of that, but I'm pretty sound with my reissue on Outsider. We can all probably agree Christopher is one of the better titles on here. But yeah, if you love your blues rock, check her out with some dashes of psych thrown in. Okay, so that about does it. Don't know when the next update will come along. Maybe April 1st. But we shall see. And also be sure to check out Tuco Vintage Vinyl Hunter. Hunter or Picker? I think it's Picker. It's a long name. But I'll leave the link and show his display here. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon.